Ohio State looks like the best team in the Big Ten. So who's the next best? Penn State, Oregon? Who's your favorite to possibly play Ohio State in a Big Ten championship game based on what you just saw in Week 5? We'll talk about it right here. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So Penn State and Oregon, are they a cut above? Plus, we'll talk about the rest of the Big Ten this weekend. There was a lot of impressive stuff out there. And you need to pay attention to the Hoosiers and Rutgers. Believe it or not, I'll tell you why. And our top 10 observations from the weekend. All that coming up right here. But Ohio State continues to go through the motions, playing games like their scrimmages or exhibition games. They're great, and they're untested, and they just look like they're going to roll. Saturday, they cruised to a 38-7 win over Michigan State. I mentioned in our live podcast on Saturday night that the Freshman of the Year award seems to already be etched in stone for Jeremiah Smith, their freshman wide receiver for the Buckeyes. He's phenomenal. It's fun to watch. Had a 19-yard touchdown run. Also had the one-handed 17-yard grab down the right sideline. Absolutely phenomenal. Nobody could believe he made the catch. It was amazing watching crowd reaction. Ryan Day talked about it afterward. This kid's the real deal. And the Buckeyes defense forced 3 turnovers as well. And by the way, the Spartans have been plagued by turnovers all season long. They now have 13 in 5 games. So while the Buckeyes appear to be on cruise control, who can hang with them and maybe even meet up in a hypothetical Big Ten championship against them in December? Because that's the way it looks like it's headed. Penn State, maybe Oregon. Let's start with Penn State for a moment based on what we saw this weekend. I thought they got stronger as the game went on versus a very good ranked Illinois team on Saturday night. And they did it on both sides of the ball. And we all know that defense means something in the Big Ten still. Tom Allen's defense allowed Illinois to take the opening drive, march it down the field, and score a touchdown for a 7-0 lead. And that was it. That was it. The Nittany Lions threw a shutout from that point on in a 21-7 victory. In fact, Illinois only managed 25 net positive yards the rest of the way after that opening drive. They were tackled 7 times behind the line of scrimmage. Luke Altmaier was sacked 7 times. Penn State's defense just really clamped down as the game went on. They got a fumble recovery. They got an A.J. Harris interception off of a Luke Altmaier pass, which, by the way, should have been a pick 6, but there was a nonsensical illegal block by one of his teammates that ruined it for him. It wouldn't have helped out at all anyway. He was going to score. Nevertheless, they were rolling, and again, just got stronger and stronger as the game went on. Now, I had a few questions about this Penn State defense, particularly their secondary earlier in the season. And, of course, we're comparing them to last year's Penn State defense, which was literally elite. But Saturday was a major step in the right direction. And if you play defense and you have a strong running game, it sounds old school, but it really helps out in the Big Ten. You can win a lot of big football games. Regarding the running game, Penn State's running back, their dynamic duo, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, they're their usual solid self. They combined for 34 carries and 196 yards between the two of them, and they're always fresh, relieving each other. And I mean, 34 carries for 196 yards. If that was just one back, you would be going, whoa. But the two of them can do it. A couple of touchdowns for the two of them as well. Penn State's next game is UCLA. UCLA's struggling. Then they got a date with Southern Cal. Get over the middle part of the season here. Penn State looks like it could start rolling here. The other team we mentioned on the upper elite, if you will, was Oregon. They played late. They had a late West Coast game on Saturday night, Sunday morning. If you're on the East Coast, maybe you didn't see it, but Oregon beat UCLA rather handily. They got their first ever Big Ten Conference win, and it was 34-13. Problems with UCLA. We'll talk about that in a moment. But the Ducks sit at 4-0. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel, solid all season long, had a 3-touchdown performance in the Rose Bowl against UCLA here on Saturday. His chemistry with Tez Johnson, the wide receiver, is phenomenal. Continues to roll week in and week out. He had 11 catches for 121 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Plus, the Ducks running game looking good. Jordan James rushing for 103 yards and 20 carries. You do all this, wide receiver at running back and all that, you're going to be tough to beat. And all in all, the Ducks game, they came in all things swinging there, ready to go at UCLA, scoring on their first 5 possessions in the first half. Back to Gabriel for just a moment. He's setting NCAA records. He's been doing this for a while at 3 different schools, but he became the 4th FBS player to reach 16,000 yards passing. He's in a 3-way tie for 3rd all time with 134 career touchdown passes. Again, he's a 6-year senior, been at 3 different schools, but he's a great fit at Oregon. And it wasn't all offense for the Ducks because their defense was pretty dialed in as well. The Ducks have 11 sacks already, and they're allowing 155 yards per game. That's it. Meanwhile, let's talk about UCLA for just a minute here. A lot of problems. Deshaun Foster, this looks like this could go south fast. They've dropped 3 straight games. Remember, they had the season opener, last-second field goal win against Hawaii. They've lost 3 straight since then. And for the first time since 1963, UCLA has not managed to score at least 20 points in their first 4 games. Remember, Eric Bieniemy from the NFL came in to be their offensive coordinator and fix everything, but there's just not enough talent there for him to. And Eric Bieniemy used to work with guys like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. There's nothing like that at UCLA right now. So they have not scored an offensive touchdown in the last 6 quarters. It's just not happening. They did have one bright spot. UCLA's Brian Addison did have a 96-yard pick-6 score off of Dylan Gabriel. So they got that. At least that's something positive to build on. Now, back to the Ducks for a moment. They've won their Big Ten home opener, or they have their Big Ten home opener Friday night this week against Michigan State. That will give them an extra day of rest. Playing on Friday, extra day of rest, extra day of preparation, because we're already looking ahead. Now, we're looking ahead. Oregon better not look ahead Friday night, Michigan State. Because the week after that, it's the October 12th game against Ohio State that everybody has circled on their calendar. So we started this podcast warning, hey, who can compete with Ohio State and maybe a Big Ten championship game if it works out that way? Well, we may get a sneak peek early on, a week from this weekend, October 12th, Ohio State coming into Oregon. That is going to be a big measuring stick game moving forward. So as we try to figure out who else is rising to the top of the Big Ten, we still have some other things we got to sort out, and things are starting to get in the interesting part of the schedule. Love to know what you guys think as well, either on Twitter or hit me up with a comment there on YouTube if that's where you're watching. As long as you are there at YouTube, by the way, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. It's free forever. If you just click the little subscribe button, that's it. And then we're together with this Big Ten thing that we love so much. And then I'll also ask you to share, if you don't mind, with somebody that loves Big Ten sports. So subscribe and share and follow and like Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Don't forget, we have a website too called Talk Big Ten, the number 10.com. If you're on video, you see the scroll on the bottom. All of our podcasts go there chronologically, and we group them by team as well. And you can also get merchandise from your favorite teams right there. Shirts, hats, and T-shirts right off of the website. You can be reading or following along, watching and listening to a podcast of ours and go, yeah, I'm going to get some gear. Going to cheer on my team a little bit. It's all right there at the website, talkbig10.com, if you want to check that out. All right. Now, we've mentioned Ohio State. We talked about Oregon and Penn State and whether they're on the same level as them. It's time to start paying attention to Indiana and Rutgers. And I'm not kidding. And there's a worrisome trend for Michigan football. I will have all that next right here on Locked On Big Ten. FanDuel makes the fun that we have watching sports even more fun. NFL fans, start this season big. Big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets on the games you're interested in. And you'll get started with $200 of bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. It's all at FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com. Speaking of NFL, tonight, Monday Night Football, we got 2 games again. Got the Titans and the Dolphins. Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites here, and the over-under is 36.5. Now, Titans haven't scored 30 points in like 38 straight games, and the Dolphins average 11 points per game. Take the under on this one. This is going to be ugly. I don't even know. I maybe the Dolphins because they're home. Maybe because Will Levis has been bad for Tennessee. Lions, 3.5-point favorites against the Seahawks. I actually think that game might be closer than that. It's going to be back and forth. It's going to be whoever has the ball last. Take the over at 46.5 and that one. But you can do it all at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com and have fun with all these NFL games. Well, thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day right here. Plus, don't forget our website, talkbig10.com. All right, I told you, you got to start keeping an eye on the Indiana Hoosiers. We typically don't talk about them a lot during football season. They beat Maryland. They went into that game, by the way, averaging 50 points a game in 4 games. Well, they won 42-28 against a good Maryland team. Indiana is 5-0 for the first time since 1967. Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke, he threw 2 early interceptions. It was not a great start. In fact, Indiana had 4 turnovers and still won the game pretty handily. He bounced back. He threw a season-high 359 yards and 3 touchdowns after the 2 turnovers. So they're able to overcome these things because they're a high-flying team. Elijah Sarrett had 7 catches for 128 yards and a score in this game. Tyson Lawton had 19 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. As for the Terps, Billy Edwards Jr. threw 3 touchdown passes. Roman Hemby ran for 117 yards. In fact, he had 75 of those yards coming out 1 touchdown play. Here's what you got to watch here. Well, we'll get the details to you as soon as we have them. But wide receiver Ty Felton, who's their star player, was injured. And Caden Prather injured also. Prather did come back later in the game, but not Felton. So we're going to be keeping an eye for that story here at the beginning of the week. The Hoosiers, by the way, look to go 6-0. Be bowl eligible if they win this week. They play Northwestern. They're on a roll. What can I say? It's at Northwestern. Meanwhile, Rutgers is a very scrappy, punch-you-in-the-mouth football team. Washington had to go fly across the country and play there for the first time. Rutgers held on to win a game 21-18. They led at the half 14-3, but Washington's Grady Gross missed a 55-yard field goal at the horn that would have tied the game. Kyle Monungai, leading rusher in the Big Ten last year, did his usual, 132 yards and a touchdown. Rutgers is now 4-0 for the first time since 2012. And Washington falls to 3-2, 1-1 after losing their first ever road Big Ten game. So anyway, but a couple of interesting facts from this one. Washington outgained Rutgers on the ground, 521 yards to 299. They missed 3 field goals. They had 6 penalties for 69 yards. They had an illegal substitution at the end of the first half. They had blocked the punt. I think a kid came onto the field cheering on, and they called it for illegal. Too many men on the field because it was still a live ball. Rutgers then turned that into another touchdown for 14-3 lead at the half. So, and Washington was only like 2 of 12 on 3rd down as well. So they did not do themselves any favor. Nebraska's also on our watch list, as you know, if you watch us regularly here. And as far as teams competing for that next rung up there, weird game at Purdue. They won, They won 28-10. Dylan Raiola threw for 257 yards and a touchdown. This game was scoreless at the half. Talk about old-timey football. And Purdue led 3-0 in the third. Then Nebraska woke up, scored 28 unanswered points, including in that run, senior linebacker John Bullock added a 29-yard pick six in the game. It's the first touchdown he's ever scored in a college game. The Huskers D held Purdue to 50 yards rushing, and Purdue added a final score 2 minutes to go. Made the score look a little better, but it was total chaos. Absolute blowout. Still a problem for the Huskers. Still too many penalties. No, they got turnovers. They're okay. Too many penalties. 11 more penalties in this game for 94 yards. They've got to stop this. This is going to cost them. And Purdue, 13 penalties for 165 yards. Wow. I mentioned our live broadcast on Saturday. I don't think I've ever heard of a team getting 165 yards of penalties. Another team we like to watch, of course, the USC Trojans. They had to come from behind to beat Wisconsin at the Coliseum, 38-21. Wisconsin led this game 21-10 at the half. The Coliseum fans were booing the Trojans as they left the field. Then they got together. Miller Moss and the Trojans started clicking a little bit. They outscored Wisconsin 28-0 in the second half to get their first Big Ten win. Jacoby Lane, 10 catches, 105 yards, 3 touchdowns. Deuce Robinson scored the go-ahead touchdown with just about a minute and a half left in the third quarter, and then they just piled it on. Linebacker Mason Cobb had a key interception with 5 minutes to go. For the Badgers, Braden Locke made his first start of the year. He started a handful of games last year, too, when Tanner Mordecai got hurt. And now the Tyler Van Dyke got hurt in the Alabama game a couple weeks ago. So it's going to be Braden Locke the rest of the way. He was 13-26 for 180 yards in that game. Now, Michigan beat Minnesota for the Little Brown Jug. They've been playing for that since 1909. Michigan 27, Minnesota 24. Michigan led this game 24-3 going into the fourth quarter. This is a worrisome trend for me. It's very reminiscent of the Arkansas State game a couple of weeks ago, where Michigan was up 23-7 going into the fourth quarter. They end up winning that game by 10 points. A little trouble closing these out here. Although Khalil Mullings ran for 117 yards and 2 touchdowns, but Minnesota scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. And they look like they got the onside kick to make it really interesting, but they got called for a penalty and had to re-kick it again. And then Mullings landed on the ball, nailed it out, game over. Michigan quarterback situation, still not great. Alex Orji on the day, 10 of 18, just 86 yards passing. I mean, this is very Iowa football-like. He threw a touchdown pass, but he also threw an interception that helped lead Minnesota and helped them get back into the game. Michigan did hold Minnesota running back and Detroit native Darius Taylor to just 13 carries and 36 yards, but he did have 10 catches out of the backfield for 52 yards, so not too bad there. All right, so that's my eye on what happened in week 5. What about you? Let me know. Hit me up with some comments on YouTube, Twitter, or our website, talkbig10.com as well. Coming up in just a minute, I'm going to share with you my top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. See if everything on my list made your list. Did I leave something out? Want to hear from you. All that's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Game time. You want to go to a Big Ten game? Get your tickets, whether it's a football game, whether it's a Major League Baseball game, playoffs coming up. Whether you want to go to a concert, a comedy show, everything. If it needs a ticket, you can get the Gametime app on your phone and get yourself tickets to absolutely everything. I love the feature that they have. You can see the picture of the seat from the seat of the view of the ticket you're about to buy. It's fantastic. So go to Gametime, get everything loaded up there, and then anytime you think, hey, I want to go to something, just pull it up on your phone, and it's good to go. Gametime, they got the lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime Ticket Advantage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Just take all the guesswork out of buying tickets to games and concerts and events with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Locked On College, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I want to take a look at my top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. I will share them with you here, and we'll see if you agree or disagree. I always enjoy this segment, kind of a big recap of the weekend, if you will. So we'll start off at number 10 here. UCLA's Brian Addison. I had to throw UCLA a bone here with all the troubles they've been having. He had a 96-yard pick six off of Dylan Gabriel. They need something positive, so I threw him on here on this list. Next, we've got at number 9, Michigan's Khalil Mullings, the 111 yards and 2 touchdowns versus Minnesota. So good job by there. He did start the game, by the way, ahead of Donovan Edwards. He's been playing really well lately, and he's been passing Edwards as the go-to guy in that running game for the Michigan Wolverines. At number 8, a shout out to the Nebraska defense versus Purdue. I mentioned the John Bullock interception and the 29-yard pick six. The Huskers defense holding Purdue to just 50 yards rushing. Again, Purdue, a lot of problems, and Nebraska helped highlight some of those problems as well in that game. At number 7, well, shout out to Indiana's Elijah Sarratt, who had 7 catches for 128 yards and a score. IU is 5-0 for the first time since 1967, looking to make it 6-0 if they can go up to Northwestern and win this weekend, then be bowl eligible in 6 weeks. How about that? Kurt Signetti, his first year, changing things. Like a lot of people thought he might be able to change things when he went there. Not this fast. Not this fast. This is incredible what he's doing there. At number 6, Rutgers. Kyle Monangai, one of our favorites, the 132 yards and a touchdown. Rutgers is 4-0 for the first time since 2012. So some of these teams are learning to win. It's pretty good. Number 5, USC's Jacoby Lane for his 10-catch, 105-yard performance and 3 touchdowns versus the Wisconsin Badgers out at the Coliseum. And very instrumental in that second half comeback. Again, down by 11 at the half, but the Trojans, they do what they do. They fight on, right? See what I did there? Yeah, that's their slogan. There you go. Number 4, Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel. A shout out to him just for surpassing 16,000 career yards. That's pretty good. That's a very short list of people that have been able to do that over the years. And we'll just keep rolling here with some more Oregon. Tez Johnson, his favorite weapon, 11 catches for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns versus UCLA. Pretty good performance. He's doing this every week. Get used to it. They're going to need a big game out of him against Ohio State in 2 weeks. Can't wait for that one. I hate to look ahead, but that's the one we're looking ahead. We really are. And so are Oregon and Ohio State fans, no question. At number 2, I want to put the combo of the Penn State running backs, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, who were solid again. 34 carries for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. And then to cap it off on the other side of the ball, at number 1, I thought the Penn State defense, Tom Allen, former Indiana head coach, now the defensive coordinator for the Penn State Nittany Lions, who I thought they looked a little rough around the edges in the secondary the first couple weeks of the season, but they look like they have things dialed in. That was a good Illinois football team that they were able to keep in check and just hold them to that opening drive touchdown, and that's it. A shutout the rest of the way. That's incredible. So is that whiteout performance that the whiteout energy, if you will, wasn't the official whiteout at Penn State, but that game was a lot of fun to watch. So there you have it. That's our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. See if I left somebody off. Let me know. Hit me up with a message. It's all good. So that's how we shake it out. Fantastic. We're already rolling. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll have Tuesday tweets. We'll keep looking at I guess a couple of interesting stories I'm working on with the Big Ten as we're working toward week 6 already of the season. Can't believe it. In the meantime, if you want to reach out, there are many ways to hit me up at Twitter at TalkBig10. Also, our website, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts and merchandise are And of course, your comments on YouTube are always welcome as well. Before you go, always ask you one more time, if you don't mind, subscribe. That's it. It's free. No information required. Subscribe, share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten. That helps us out a lot. Really appreciate it. And you can do that on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Go back on the website. Go our live broadcast from Saturday. Immediate reaction after the games. It's up there. That's recorded. It's not live anymore, obviously, but it's up there for you to find. And if you're done with that, maybe check out a second listen with our friends at Locked On College Football. They got their own podcast, talk about everybody all the time, every week, on the field, off the field. Locked On College Football, also available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Can't wait till we meet again tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Craig Shemon for Locked On Big Ten.